How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're just going to be going over some common issues with these 14 to 20 Acura MDXs. So just because I mentioned some of these issues doesn't mean that all of them have the same exact issue, or you may have a car that's never had any of these issues, or you may have had a situation where you had a totally different issue. These are just some of the things that we see here at our dealer and across most Acura dealerships. So if you're a technician and you work for Acura Honda and you've seen a different issue or a trend of some sort, make sure you drop a comment down below. So this video in specific will be for somebody who has this car and is deciding if they want to keep it or get rid of it, or if you're in the market for one of these cars and you just want to know what you're in for along the way of you owning the car. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started with some of the issues that we are seeing. All right, so first things first is we have these lower arm bushings. They do tend to fail a lot right over here. This one in particular is okay, but something you want to look at, and something if you're purchasing this car, you could take a look, make sure there's no cracks or leaks or anything like that, and you're good to go from there. They do fail pretty often. Also, your front struts also fail pretty often on this vehicle, so something you could also take a look at if you're feeling a bumpy ride or noisy ride. Probably your front struts making noise and the fluid has leaked out of them, so something you can easily check. Also, your front rotors do tend to warp pretty often. The pad compound is really soft, so an upgraded pad and rotor could definitely help the situation here. So something you want to consider, not a deal breaker, but again, something you do want to consider here. We also have problems with these internal failures of these cameras right in here for the lane keep assist and the Honda sensing and stuff like that. So we do get internal failures on those, and something you want to consider. Also, they don't break for any particular reason, but once again, it is in here, and we do see them failing from time to time. Coming down in here, we do see also some liquid damage. You can actually see here some surface damage right over here, just some liquid. This one is still working. Cup holders are in a horrible spot. They could have put these switches anywhere else or just given it a shift selector, but this does have the Honda ZF transmission, which is something a lot of people don't like. I particularly don't mind them at all. They do fail from time to time, but they're a lot less problematic than Honda's 6-speed automatic transmissions. In my opinion, we do way more of those transmissions than we do anything Honda ZF. So again, a lot of people don't like them. My only gripe with them is the shift selector. It's just in a bad spot. They could have put a little bit higher. They kind of changed that on a new MDX. So I think they definitely knew this was a bad spot for it, but it is what it is. Just if you have one of these, be mindful of these cup holders here and something spilling on here. They did put the parking brake switch here and all these switches, which is nice. So some vehicles parking brake switch is also here as well. Inside the vehicle, nothing really other than that goes wrong with these cars, with the exception of the switch. They do fail and causing the blinkers not to work. So not a huge deal, not so expensive that it's going to be a deal breaker, but obviously you want your fully working blinker. So they do fail pretty often. So simple job to fix it, and you could probably do yourself in most cases as well. Coming back out to the vehicle, we do have some issues with the rear differential harnesses failing. So the rear differential up there, and it will throw some codes. And at that time, you just replace the harness. They do short internally. So we have seen some cases of that. Just something you want to be mindful for. Again, not a huge expense. It's probably more work than the actual part itself. But within about an hour or so of time's labor, you should be able to get that harness changed out. All right, underneath the hood here, we have a couple of key issues I want to point out. So first being first, this solenoid right here for the VCM system does leak pretty often. And when that does leak, it does prematurely damage that alternator. The alternator almost never fails by itself. It usually fails because there's oil on it coming directly from that solenoid. So if you have one of these vehicles, you're going to want to take a close look right over here. And that goes for any Honda or Acura J Series V6 with the VCM system. And if it has a solenoid here, then you have a VCM system. If it looks like an empty spot, then you do not. And just to take a peek, this one is nice and dry, so we are good to go here. Also, at about 100,000 miles, you are due for the time belt. So we have some time belt tensioners fail prematurely, causing a knocking sound or a rattle as a vehicle is cold. And as it warms up, it kind of dissipates and goes away. That's how you know the time belt tensioner is faulty. You could also take a physical look at it is in this area right here and see if there's no oil on it. If there's oil on it, obviously oil is leaking out of the tensioner and starting to fail in that way. May not be making noise yet, although it probably will soon. So anytime you're doing this time belt right around 100K or 70,000 years or so, you're going to want to take a close look right above the oil pan from underneath, and you're going to want to see if you see oil there. Chances are your oil pump is leaking. Again, another common issue, and that is the right time to address that, because in order to do the oil pump, you do have to take out the time belt. So at 100,000 miles, if you see any dampness around that area, I'll try to put a picture up somewhere so you guys can see an example, and you're going to want to address that at that time. If not, if you don't, then you do the time belt, let's say at 7 years, 100,000 miles, and then at 120,000 miles, you start to notice the leak. Then you're going to have to redo that job all over again. So just something you want to keep in mind. Time belt is maintenance, not really an issue, although it is something that obviously is going to cost you some money. And we also have rear mains that tend to leak. So that would be on the other side of the engine where the engine and transmission meet. Excuse me. If you see any oil there, then chances are your rear main seal is leaking at that point, and at that time it is something that you need to address if you want to. If not, then you're going to have to be dealing with some oil drips on the floor, but something we see on the higher end of these vehicles, usually above 100,000 miles. That's kind of when they get to start getting a little bit pricey. So if you're at that mark and you're thinking about getting rid of it or keeping it, probably the time you should be taking a close look at all these items that I have mentioned. And then last but not least, we have the rod bearing recall for these engines, and obviously that is a big issue, and that affects various 15 to 20 model years Acuras, including this one. So obviously if you have a knocking or anything like that, it's probably too little too late, and the engine will need to get replaced, or the crankshaft, or a combination of different parts at that point. If not, then you're going to want to bring it in ASAP to your local Acura dealer to get that addressed. They inspect it. It's a ton of steps, and I can't tell you if you're going to do A, B, or C, or D. You're just going to have to take it in. They're going to have to do their inspection procedure and let you know what they did after that. American Honda tells us what to replace, not the other way around. We can't bend the rules or anything like that. Everything is well documented via pictures and information and stuff like that. So if you do have one of these vehicles, or you plan on purchasing one, just keep in mind that that is something you may have to deal with at that time. So that being said, that basically covers everything or common issues that we do see on this vehicle. It is a great vehicle. This is an awesome color. This is a PMC limited edition vehicle. So custom color, or not custom, but very limited color to the lineup. Only comes on a PMC edition trim. So it's a great vehicle. This one has been ultra reliable. I've been servicing this one for about 60,000 miles or so. So very reliable car. The only thing that we had was a hiccup, was a steering angle sensor. Everything has been, other than that, just general maintenance. So that being said, hopefully this video is helpful to somebody out there, and I'll catch you on the next one.